Hi there guys, welcome back to the EdgebyRS account. The last time I shared a recording on X, it was all about the gap and balance rules. And if you guys recall, back then, we at least dealt with 2 out of 5 trading sessions being a gap up or a gap down. In most cases, it was gap up. And if you followed me then, you would have done phenomenally well because I truly taught you guys how to navigate using gap rules. Now, today I've come back and I'm going to talk about divergence. Now, it's not only about how we got the trade, but it will also be about how you can use these insights to navigate the remainder of July. And let me assure you, anything that I teach you guys is something that is actionable, and it is not just for today or tomorrow, it is for the foreseeable future, and like I said, for the remainder of this month. So you want to pay attention, you want to take notes, if possible, re-watch it so you are prepared. Now, today's divergence was straightforward, visible to any trader. NQ on a gap down, ES holding its yesterday's value area low. Now, that's a clear divergence. So whenever I see a divergence, my eyes lit up because one index is giving you a plain vanilla, easy trade. And well, it was NQ this time. But let me just tell you how we went about it. So remember that NQ has been bleeding this rally. So on its way down, while NQ could be far more weaker and ES a little less, in the end, it's going to drag ES down. And today's alpha was NQ opening on a gap down. Observe. The open today, 29,593. As for gap rules, NQ holding below the open, we look for a gap and go. If it was above the open, then we could look for an inventory correction. Now, this gap down wasn't at a random location. Instead, observe, it was right at the single prints from Thursday. These are the same single prints that split the upper distribution and the lower distribution on Thursday. And look where the lower distribution low is. It has a poor low there, which means any acceptance below the single prints, below today's open, would have put NQ inside Thursday's lower distribution. And like I have taught my members, whenever you take a trade, ask yourself, what's the structural magnet? Because that is where the index is likely to rotate into. And in this particular case, we have the poor low at 29,330. So it was a clean trade with your targets, with gap rules supporting it, and contextually, NQ was also inside Thursday's lower distribution. And all we have to think in the context of is the balance rules. What does the balance rule say? From one end to another. A pause at the halfback. So if you look at the lower distribution, and all you have to do is really draw a box at around Thursday's lower distribution, something like this, and there you go. You've got a box, some sort of a balance to guide you, and look what happens when NQ fails the top of the box, rotates right to the bottom, and back tests the support zone. We had marked both in our daily and weekly plan. But I'm not here to talk about support today. I'm here talking about how the divergence could have been used to take a profitable trade. So now we know NQ is weak. Now this week was at the open. The question is, did we have clues prior to the open? What could have told us that this is going to likely flush lower, or it would be a gap and go? And the answer is right at how the overnight session developed. Observe real quick. So this was the gap. This is yesterday's low right here. Observe thereafter. Asia found support at this gray zone. It's the same gray zone I even have in my weekly plans. So if you guys are reading my weekly plans, then you know these zones are familiar to you. So look what happens here. We make a London high, which is below yesterday's low. So now you've got to start thinking in the context of higher highs or lower highs. So we have the first lower high. We backtest the same zone much later during London session, and look what happens thereafter. Pre-market, another lower high. So now we've got a gap, as you can see, a lower high during London, and then pre-market. That, my friends, is weakness. And this is not it. We've been talking about rotation, right? And the rotation has been from tech into other sectors. Now, DAX, on the other hand, and most of you here know I do trade European markets. Look what happens here. From Monday onwards, it starts to roll over. And it has a very identical setup. This morning, right at value, it opens right at value area low, again tries to bounce. And look at this setup, right? Tries to bounce, responsive buyers, unable to print a higher high. In fact, they couldn't even get to yesterday's close at 25,818 in DAX. And this is very important right here. And just bear with me, I'm going to walk you through this. And look what happens eventually rolls over. So responsive buying failed. So this is what it tells me, right? NQ is weak, okay. But if other sectors, and predominantly across the pond in Europe, we have DAX weak, it tells me that this is going to spill over into ES. Because remember, ES is 34% XLK, and then you've got the remainder 66% other sectors. Now look, very identical setup, right? Look at ES. You've got the same setup into value area low. You have responsive buyers, okay? And remind yourself, at this point, NQ is on a gap down. It is holding below its open. So we've got a clear case of gap and go with a series of lower highs coming through session after session, which is London into pre-market, and right at the open, you've got another lower high. And right here, even though ES is at its value area low, look at the identical responsiveness to DAX, while DAX couldn't get to its 25,818 prior close. Look at ES. It couldn't get past the weekly value area high. In fact, all what happened yesterday then became a weekly value breakout failure in motion. And look at these lower highs right at the open. You get a nice little breakdown following the NQ gap and instantly that is your hint. NQ is weak. NQ is initiating a gap and go. NQ is coming on a back of lower highs session after session, which is London to pre-market. So ES short then become a no-brainer here, all backed by also what DAX did, which is a non-tech index similar to ES. So you can see how identical the character was. And that is when I say, guys, intermarket confluence is extremely important. You want to watch what is happening, how it is happening. You want to watch the magnitude of responses. Look at here, value area low, buyers stepping in. You want to focus on what these buyers achieve. And right here, all buyers had to achieve was to get above weekly value area high and hold. Instead, it kept rejecting. Eventually, you have the breakdown. You have the untested Asia low from yesterday at 75.38, and that's where your rotation happened, which ultimately aligned with the support zone in NQ. So guys, from here on, for the remainder of this month, keep it very simple. Divergence will be with you in one format or the other. It could be a gap up, it could be a gap down, it could be a value break up, it could be a value break down. In either case, no matter what combination it occurs, you want to remind yourself, where is the edge? So today, the edge was in NQ being a gap and go. The edge was in knowing the overnight session kept printing a lower high in NQ. So a breakdown was imminent. Poor low is the magnet you want to short. Similarly, ES, value. What did it achieve? Nothing. Lower highs again right at the open. And there, at that point in time, you don't want to think, am I shorting into the hole? You literally need to be trigger ready. The moment it fails, you press because the context is clear. I see a lot of traders, they are hesitating, they're thinking 10 times. And all I tell them, guys, stop thinking. All you need to do is track the context, look at the structure, look at Confluence. The moment it is present, you get your break, you slap those shorts, and that is what we did. And of course, you guys can scroll over to my X and all my trades are there. We in fact even caught the lows of today. We did fantastic, and I'm really pleased with what the room has achieved today. But I'll leave you with Divergence, how to track them, and how to think through it. And if you have any questions, you can always drop in a comment or send me a DM on X. I'll be more than happy to help you. I wish you all a very good evening and good luck.